Hey guys, so today I'm going to be doing a TASH chats, and this video is going to be about my mom. I mentioned her on the vlog that went up today. Today's Thursday when I'm filming this. Today a vlog went up and I spoke really briefly about my mother, and I realized when I was talking about her that I'd never mentioned her before. So I figured I would do a video just dedicated to my mom and my story and my history with my mom. It's not going to be really like my whole life story. So there's going to be some gaps and things in between. I'm not going to speak of every single experience that I've had in my life, just what, you know, is related to like my mom, what happened with my mom and everything like that. Sometimes I'm able to talk to my mom and not get emotional. Other times I do get emotional, so I'm going to try not to get emotional in this video, and if I do, I'll try to edit it out so it's not like super awkward or anything like that. But I mentioned in the vlog that my mom passed away, but I'm going to start from the beginning and then work my way to that. But I live with my mom until I was 6, and I will explain in a few minutes. But my mom and dad had my brother and I. My brother is 5 years older than me. My mom and dad weren't married, and they separated when I was a baby. I have no memory of my mom and dad ever being together. So I stayed with my mom up until 6 years old. I would go with my dad for a couple of days here and there, but my life with my mom was really unstable. We never really had like a stable home. We moved a lot. My mom dated a lot. A lot of the boyfriends I remember were really abusive towards my mother. I would witness them abusing her. My brother would go and stay with my dad often, but I was mainly with my mom. So my brother was like back and forth. But hold on, I hear Jordan. I'll be right back. Okay, I just had to move her to her little, what do you call these things? The little walker. So if you hear any noise, it's just Jordan eating her snack over there. But what was I saying? Yeah, so my brother moved back and forth between mom and dad, but I stayed with my mom. And like I said, it was an unstable living situation. My mom drank a lot. She was heavy into alcohol. She had abusive boyfriends. She was always really loving towards me. I had an awesome relationship with my mom. She wasn't abusive or anything like that. And I love my mom. Like, I love my mom. And I don't know, when I was 6 years old, she had called my aunt, which is her sister, which is actually the sister that I'm living with right now. But I'll get into it. But basically, my mother was asking my aunt if she would take me and take care of me, because she was going to get arrested for something that she had done, and my father didn't want to take me. My father took my brother but didn't want to take me, so she needed, you know, somewhere for me to go. Didn't want me to go into like foster system or anything like that. So my aunt agreed to take me. I remember my mom and I, we were at a Pathmark. Like, we were standing in front of a Pathmark, and my mom was using like a payphone to call my aunt and uncle. My aunt was actually out of town when she called, but my uncle was home. So my mom told me basically that I was going to have a sleepover, and I thought it was going to be like a short little thing. Like, I was excited. I'm 6 and I'm thinking, oh, I'm sleeping over my aunt's house. My aunt had 3 kids at that time, so I was happy and excited. And I remember my uncle getting to the Pathmark, and I hopped into his car and I was like, bye mom, bye, and I was waving. I was excited, bye mom. And I remember her just having her back towards me and her face in her hands like she was crying. And I was like, I didn't understand. I didn't know why she was crying. Like it's not that serious, mom. I'll be back in a few days. It's just a sleepover. Well, so I thought. Basically, I live with my aunt and uncle from the age of 6 to 19. So I was there for a long time. So obviously it wasn't a sleepover. My aunt and uncle did become my legal guardians. My mom visited here and there, but I really didn't see her often at all during those years. I didn't see my brother very often. My dad hardly ever. Like, I can't even remember. I think I've seen him like once or twice during that time. My brother would like come and sleep over sometimes, not often at all, but he was really close to my cousin, my aunt's son. My aunt had 5 kids total. Like, she had more kids, you know, when I was with her or whatever. So she had 5 of her own kids and then me. And yeah, I didn't see my mom a lot. I'm not going to talk too much about like my upbringing like at home with my aunt. I'm just gonna, like I said, try to keep it to my mom. So fast forward to age 19, I left home, my aunt and uncle's house, and I went to stay with my brother. My brother and my mom, like my brother lived with my dad, and then he was on his own. So he had a relationship with my mom all those years, but like living with my aunt and uncle, it was like a sheltered environment. I didn't see my mom hardly ever, so he was in touch with her. So when I stayed with my brother, I remember one day he said, let's go visit mom, and I was like nervous and excited. I was like nervous because I'm like, I know she didn't know that I wasn't living with my aunt anymore. So I remember we just got in the car and we went to where my mom lived, and she wasn't there, but my brother's like, don't worry, you know, she hangs out around here, I'm sure we'll find her. So we were just driving down, my brother knew exactly where to go. He was just driving down the block, I guess, that she hangs around on. I don't know how to explain. It probably sounds like weird to you guys, but like my mom would hang out like in a certain area. And I remember he's like, oh, there she is. She was like riding a bike with her boyfriend. So he pulls into this parking lot, and he had a 2-door car at this time, and he was with his girlfriend, and his baby was in the backseat with me. So he pulls over and he calls for her, and she comes riding over and she greets him or whatever. And my brother's like, Mom, I have something to show you. And she's like, what? So he gets out of the car and like lifts his seat so she could look in the back seat. And then I just remember, like, my heart is racing out of my chest at this point. Like, I can't believe like my mom is right there. Like, holy cow. Like, for a year, the entire time that I lived with my aunt and uncle, I cried over my mom. I missed my mom so much. Like, I never got used to not being with her. Like, I said I wouldn't talk too much, but I feel like it's important to let you guys know that, like, the entire time that I wasn't with my mom, I missed her terribly, and I was depressed, and I felt out of place. I always felt like, you know, I was an outsider, that I didn't belong where I was, and I missed her, and I just wanted to be with her, and I didn't understand, like, why all these years had gone by and I was still not with her. But anyway, fast forward to that day, and she looked in the back seat, and I remember, like, she just looked so shocked, and she started to scream. She's like, my baby, my baby. Then I started to cry, and I came out of the car, and we hugged for a long time and cried, and that was like my reunion with my mom. Jordan is getting into mischief. But yeah, from there I saw my mom often. I ended up leaving my brother's place, and I stayed with my mom for a little while. She lived in this tiny little room, and I stayed with her, and I witnessed her boyfriend hit her. Like, I was surprised to see it. Like, I remember seeing it when I was, you know, a kid, like when I was little. I guess I was just surprised that she was with someone else that was abusive. Yeah, but he hit her, and she ended up getting a job. Wait, hold on, I'll be right back. So, yeah, she ended up getting a job at a daycare, and she was trying to clean up her life. She struggled with alcoholism that entire time, all those years, and not only that, but many of those years she was homeless. She was just really struggling, and when I came back in the picture, she had a little room, and she had just gotten a job at a daycare, and she was trying to quit smoking cigarettes, and obviously not drinking as much because she was working and dealing with kids. But then she lost her job when they ran a background check. So I guess that spiraled her to go back down like the road she was trying to get away from. So she kept drinking, like she picked back up her alcohol habit. And I had gotten pregnant with my daughter. And Jason would come and visit me, or I'd go visit him for a few days. And then my mom lost her place, and she was gonna be homeless. And Jason's like, come stay with me, even though Jason had an apartment with his sister, and his sister didn't want me there. She was like really mean. She still is, actually, but I'm not gonna get into that. But she didn't want me there, and we would sneak. Like I would stay in his room quietly, or I would hide in his closet, whatever, when she was around. But she worked all day, and like she had a night job, so I was able to be out and about. Like just when she was home, I would kind of hide. But yeah, I moved in with Jay sneakily, like behind his sister's back. I'm trying to remember when it was. I think it was around like November of 2005. I was a couple months pregnant by then. And then I would still go see my mom all the time. Like I just couldn't be homeless and pregnant. Actually, rewind a little bit. My mom lost her room, her like little place or whatever, and I would go visit Jay, but I didn't officially move in for a few months after my mom lost her place. I think she lost her place in like September, and I moved in with Jay in November. So in the meantime, I would sleep on the floor of my mom's friend's house. And my mom's friend was a heavy cigarette smoker, and I was like really concerned for her, like my baby, like my pregnancy. I was just convinced that I was gonna lose the baby. I was 19, by the way, when I had gotten pregnant, and I was convinced. I was like, this is not healthy. I wasn't eating. The secondhand smoke was incredible, like incredible amounts. Jordy. And I'm sorry, guys. Hold on. Okay, so hopefully she stays quiet for a few minutes. But yeah, like I was saying, there's a lot of secondhand smoking. I'm not really eating. I was losing weight. And then, like, right before Jason just said, come live with me, even though I wasn't supposed to. Right before that, I had a night where we had nowhere to go, and I slept outside behind a bodega. Like, we literally had nowhere to go. Like, I was literally homeless at this point, and had no place to go. So I remember sleeping outside, and man, like, I felt like trash. Like, dumpsters were back there and everything, and I just felt like trash. And I remember crying to Jay, and then he's like, that's enough, come stay with me, we'll figure it out. So that was November, and I still went to go see my mom and everything. She called me all the time, every 5th of the month. My anniversary with Jay was June 5th, so every 5th of the month she would call me and play this song. I think it's called You and Me. It's you and me and all other people. That song, she would play it on our voicemail if we didn't answer. If we answered, she'd play it for us on the 5th of every single month. And she was so excited for my pregnancy. She would rub my belly. She would get stuff for the baby. And in February, for Valentine's Day, we went out to her town. We weren't driving, so we had to take the train. So we took the train over to where she lives, and we took her. I'm sorry about Jordan, you guys, but I'm almost done. We took her to Friendly's, And I remember when we were at Friendly's, she like didn't want to go in. She's like, oh, I don't deserve it. Like how I was saying that I felt like trash for having to sleep outside that one night. I guess that's like how my mom felt, but to an even bigger degree, because she experienced this like for years and years and years. So she didn't even want to go into Friendly's. I was like, Mom, it's nothing like fancy. It's just Friendly's. Like, it's okay. Like, come. So I remember she was sitting down. We ordered our quesadillas. Quesadillas are my mom's favorite, and it was my favorite too. So we ordered quesadillas from Friendly's, and I guess she felt overwhelmed, so she went outside. And I told Jay, you know, I'll be right back. Let me go make sure my mom's okay. So I go outside, and she's crying, and she's like, she doesn't deserve this. We're being too nice to her, whatever. And I remember hugging her really tight, and I said, Mom, like, get used to this. Get used to this. I was like, you know, Jay and I, we're going to help you. So I tell her, Jay and I are going to help you. Like, get used to this, you know. So after Friendly's, she barely ate, but after Friendly's, she gave us a couple of more things for DC. I was pregnant with her, and I was really pregnant, and my mom was like making such a big deal about like my belly, and she gave us a few more things, and I hugged her, I told her I loved her, and I left. We hopped back on the train and went home. About 2 weeks later was her birthday, and I wasn't feeling well. I was 8 months, yes, I was about 8 months pregnant at this time, and I didn't have it in me. I didn't want to go out to where she lived or whatever, so I just called her, and I waited till the nighttime because I thought if I would call her that morning, she would like ask me to come out there, and I wouldn't have a backbone, and I would just go when I didn't want to. So I waited till the nighttime, and I called her, and I remember her kind of like rushing me off the phone. Like, usually she wouldn't. Usually every single time I would speak to her, she would tell me, oh, Tasha, you're my morning star, I love you so much. And she would just like say bye as if it was the last time we're gonna talk. Like, she would just tell me how much she loved me, and it'd be like a really like dramatic goodbye after every phone call. But this time it was different, and it was like rushed. And I thought maybe it was because she was mad that I waited all day to call her, and I didn't call her that morning for her birthday. I'm not sure, but I remember telling her, happy birthday, Mom, I love you, what did you do today, are you doing anything tonight? And she was kind of like rushing me off the phone, kind of like short answers and quick. And then I was like, okay, Mom, call me tomorrow, or whatever I said, like, to say goodbye. And she says, okay, love you, bye. And that was it. And then Jordy is all over the place, you guys. But I remember saying to Jay something terrible, and I almost don't want to even say it, but I told Jay that if I never spoke to my mom again, that I would be okay. That I felt like I don't know, I guess that I had gotten what I wanted. Like, I longed for my mom. I wanted to know her for so many years that I had gotten it, and that I'm good. Like, I'm good now. I know it probably sounds terrible, and I feel terrible. Like, I feel so bad for thinking that, feeling that, but I really was really overwhelmed and with the whole thing, like the whole situation. I love my mom. I spoke to her every day. She was like the closest person to me. But like, just like the burden of her situation really weighed on me. And that was the last time that I spoke to my mom. She died a few days later. I think it was about a week later. Birthday was February 26th, and she died on March 3rd. That morning, I I had woken up really early, which was weird because I didn't work and Jay worked, so I didn't work, and I would normally sleep in late, because I was like really pregnant. I was 8 months pregnant and big and like, just tired all the time. But I woke up early for that morning for some reason, and I just remember laying in bed, and then like an hour later I started getting a lot of phone calls from like aunts and cousins, and I'm like, first of all, how'd they get my number? Second of all, why are all these people calling me? And I'm thinking, does something happen to someone? Maybe my grandpa died, but I'm like, why is everyone calling me? So I ignored all those phone calls, and I was like, I thought what was happening was that my aunt was coming back for me. Like, my aunt was coming back to make me come back home and live with her again. So I thought that was what was going on. So I was like, I ignored all those phone calls, and I called my mom's cell phone. Her boyfriend picks up. He barely speaks any English. So I'm like, hey, can I speak to my mom? And he's crying crazy in the phone. He's like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? What's going on? So then I'm terrified. I said, I'm going to have to call you back because I don't understand anything that he's saying. And he's like barely audible because he's crying so hard on his phone. So I'm like, oh my God, did something happen to my mom? I'm thinking, oh, maybe she's in the hospital or something. And then my two aunts, two of her sisters come by the house, and they're like, oh, no, we have to tell you something. And I just remember looking at my aunt, and I said, my mom? And they shook their head yes, and I just started crying because I knew. I was like, she was gone. She must be gone. I knew she was gone. So I remember just saying, why, what happened? And I was confused, like, what happened? And they told me she was hit by a car. So the story with that is, it was 8 in the morning, and my mom was crossing a really big street in the town that she lived in, and there was a drunk driver. My mom was with her boyfriend, and they were walking across with their bikes. They weren't riding bikes, but they had their bikes, and they were like walking it across. They were standing in the middle, the median, like not in the road, but like in the middle, like to cross the second half of the road. There was a drunk driver. This drunk driver was actually a retired cop, by the way. 8 in the morning, he's drunk, he's driving, and he hits my mom. So my mom's boyfriend was fine. It was just my mom who was hit. My mom was tiny. She was probably like 5'2" and maybe like 100 pounds. She was very small. The car hits her and tosses like her body across the street onto the other side, like, where oncoming traffic is. And, and he hits her, and then another car comes and runs over her body and leaves the scene. I guess he didn't realize, or maybe he was scared, but he left the scene. So the second driver did eventually come forward, and but basically that's how my mom died. The guy who hit her, initially hit her, he was arrested for drunk driving, but was released. Like, she died on a Saturday, he was released by Monday. And he didn't get charged with manslaughter or anything like that. My aunt and I did go to, like, a lawyer to try to, I guess, sue the guy, but it didn't go anywhere. The lawyer was asking for information on my mother's firstborn, which I had no information on. She had a child before my brother and I were born, and that child's father took them to Puerto Rico and never came back. But basically the lawsuit didn't go anywhere, and the guy who hit her didn't pay for what he did. And I was 8 months pregnant, and my mom's death threw me into a terrible depression. I was just like, what now? Like, my mom is gone. Like, what now? Like, I'm pregnant with my first child. I'm going to have a daughter. I didn't even want to have a baby at that point. I was just over it. I didn't want to do anything. All I wanted to do was find the guy who killed her and kill him. That's what I wanted to do. I remember a couple of days after she died, I got up in the middle of the night and I was crying and I was like, I'm gonna kill him. I kept saying, I'm gonna kill him. I was trying to get out of the house to go and find him and kill him, and Jason had to like physically hold me down. Like, he had to physically pin me down because I was like so serious about finding this guy. Yeah, I was in like this depression, and I feel like that's when my anxiety and depression really started. Like, I was experiencing depression for a long time before then, like just from being separated from my mom, but like that's when it really hit me hard and I started to feel like depression and anxiety like on a whole nother level. So I had my daughter that May. My mom died in March. My daughter was born in May. And I was just so disconnected and sad and wishing that my mom was there. But like from then, like for years and years and years, I would battle with depression, and I still do. It's not as bad as it once was, but for years and years I would battle with depression and anxiety, and I started gaining weight like crazy. Like, I gained almost 180 pounds from like the time my mom died to present day, which I've lost now almost 40 of those pounds, like 37 maybe. But her death has affected my life tremendously. I still think about her all the time. I think about like what it would be if she was still here, how much better my life would be if she was still here. Just wishing she was part of my kids' lives, and that she could know my kids and my kids could know her. Just wanting to spend holidays with her, wanting to, like, wishing I was able to take her out of her situation and let her live with us so she could experience like normal things that people take for granted, like taking a shower like in a house in a bathroom, not like in a public bathroom, or sleeping on a pillow in a bed. Just like really simple things that she didn't get to really experience for all those years that she was dealing with, like being homeless and like moving from place to place. So I live with a lot of regret in that sense. I wish like my last conversation with her went better. I wish I never said what I did. Like, I feel like I kind of put that in the universe. And I don't know. I wish I just, I don't know, I guess just appreciated my time with her more. I really appreciated my time with her because I wanted it for so long and I finally got it. But like during those end days, I was so overwhelmed, like I told you guys, and I wish that I didn't feel that way. Like, I don't know. I remember a couple of Christmases ago, I was really sad about my mom. Like, I thought about her, and I was so sad, and I was crying so hard. Sometimes it'll happen, and I'll get, like, really emotional, and I'll have, like, bouts of crying sessions, and I was sobbing. And I remember DC came in the room, and she's like, "What's the matter, Mom?" This is, like, Christmas Day. And I just told her that I missed my mom. And, DC is, like, super sensitive, and she cried a little bit, too, and she's like, "I'm sorry." And I don't want, like, I don't want to make it sad for my kids. Like, my kids didn't know her, but my kids do feel sad for me that I don't have my mom, and DC says all the time that she wishes that she got to know her and everything like that. But Jay and I talk about my mom. We talk about happy things, and like we make jokes about like what she would say about certain situations and stuff. So my camera cut off on me because my memory's getting full, but I think that's everything I wanted to talk about anyway in this video. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I figured it'd be good to talk about her separately anyway, so when I talk about like my anxiety depression story, I can reference this video instead of going into like it on that video and making it really long. But that's it for today's Tash chat. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys on Monday.